Please welcome the Executive Director of the University of Southern California Institute for Creative Technologies, Dr. Randall W. Hill, Jr.
President Nikias, Dr. Fall, Dr. Flagg, General Weish, General Warden, Dr. Russell, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and thank you for being here today. Before I begin my introductory remarks, I'd like to recognize, introduce some of the members of the USC Senior Administration joining us today. We have the President of the University of Southern California, CL Max Nikias, Michael W. Quick, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Jim Staton, Senior Vice President for Finance and Chief Financial Officer, Yannis Yortsos, Dean of the USC Viterbi School of Engineering. Also joining us, please welcome USC trustee Ramona Capello. And I'd also like to introduce Randolph Hall, the Vice President of Research and my boss. I'd like to welcome all of you to the USC Institute for Creative Technologies, and I'm especially honored to welcome our Army Research Laboratory colleagues to Los Angeles as they open the doors to ARL West. For those of you who will be moving in or visiting often, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Playa Vista in the neighborhood here. It's part of LA's vibrant Silicon Beach and home to a growing list of creative technology companies. If you look across the park, you can see a new building that's gone up. There's a complex. I think Yahoo is supposed to be moving in. If you look over that direction, YouTube has their main studio. You look over to the right, you see the former headquarters of the Hughes Aircraft Company, a legend and leader in aviation, missile, and radar systems. There was at one time 40,000 employees for Hughes working in this little basin here. Those historic structures provide a physical symbol of the culture of imagination and contribution to science and commitment to service that defense-inspired research make possible. The Army Research Laboratory, ICT supporter and partner for over 16 years, exemplifies these traits, and I'm excited to be expanding our partnership with you, as well as with other academic institutions and industry in California as you usher in a new era in the West, bringing top researchers and engineers together to advance science and technology for soldiers, the nation, and society as a whole. I'm going to go off script for a minute and just say one thing. What a special day this is for me personally, because many years ago, I graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point. My goal was to get a PhD someday. I was a chemistry major. There's a few chemists here. It didn't go the way I thought. I was seduced into computer science, and I got my PhD here at USC. And so ARL West, and bringing you here, in a sense, marries my families together, and I'm very much looking forward to that working relationship. Thank you, and welcome again to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of the U.S. Army Research Laboratory, Dr. Thomas P. Russell.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, there we go. I thought I saw a lot of faces, but I wasn't 100% sure there for a minute. You know, Randy may have had a bunch of virtual people here or something for the celebration. So I got to tell you, today is a great Army day, And I've been with the Army for the last 3 years, and I have yet to have a bad Army day. And I just admit this morning. To me, this is the greatest Army day I've had yet. And it's really because we're here to celebrate coming out, bringing the laboratory here to the Southern California area to begin to collaborate and work with new partners, existing partners, and new partners, both in academia and industry. So before I get too far along, let me actually thank a few people for coming. Lieutenant General Weish, thank you very much for being here from AMC. Major General Warden, thank you very much from MARTA Ecom. Chris, Dr. Falls, thank you. He's from the Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP. Dr. Flagg, thank you very much for being here from OSD. And of course, Max, Dr. Nikitas, thank you very much in this partnership as we move forward. Other ladies, gentlemen, the distinguished guests, thank you very much for attending this ribbon cutting. It is really, truly a banner day for the Army and our ability to actually work together here in Southern California. So I gotta tell you, it really wasn't that long ago when General Ward and I traveled here to visit the ICT and have a discussion with Randy, and then we met with Max and had our first discussions about ARL West and with his entire leadership team. And now we find ourselves here, officially here to cut the ribbon on what we now have as our latest research facility here on the West Coast. And I got to tell you, it's been a whirlwind time, because that was less than a year ago that we actually met in the President's office. So I want to take a few minutes just to kind of put things in perspective on what we're really trying to accomplish here and what we've really been doing over the last few years to enhance our collaborations. And I really kind of like to get away from the word collaborations, but really about how do we enhance our partnerships and how we move forward to realize a vision for us to be the nation's premier laboratory. But we can't be the nation's premier laboratory for land forces without the partnerships of our academic and industry partners. It's really that ecosystem that makes us be the nation's premier laboratory. So in 2014, we actually pitched to General Vi, the commander of AMC, an idea that we would create what's called Open Campus. An open campus is really about how do you begin to run a government laboratory from a different perspective than the way we run laboratories over the last several decades. And that eventually became approved as a pilot by General Odierno and is now again supported by General Milley, both Chief of Staffs of the Army. And it's really the open campus model that brought us here to Southern California, because what we're really trying to do is begin to work on how to think differently about security and infrastructure and those challenges and how they bring us and how they actually restrict our ability to do collaboration and opportunities with our S&T partners, both in industry and academia. And by doing this, what we really do is we have an opportunity to work together and create what I would think is really the future way of thinking about laboratories, which is really a hub and spokes type network. And what I consider this to be is our West Coast hub. And a lot of our other partners here in the Southern California as well as in Northern California, it's about how we build that network across the state to support this partnership to keep us in a leadership in national security. We've made tremendous progress. Since we've initiated this business model, we brought more than 500 people into the laboratory over the last 18 months to 2 years. And we've actually added over 150 cooperative research development agreements between the Army Research Laboratory and both industry and academic partners. And we have just as many cooperative agreements being worked right now for a total of 300. I think that's a tremendous growth in partnerships between the lab and our industry and academic partners over an 18-month to 2-year period. So what you see, long ago where the nation's service laboratories were operating in a cloak of secrecy or gated behind armed guards and 12-foot high fences, it's really now us reaching out to our partners to really break down those barriers so we can increase our collaboration and our partnerships. So we're beginning to see, and we need to do this, because what we're beginning to see is that our adversaries, who've had over the better part of 10 years to study what we do and look at our vulnerabilities, both in Afghanistan and Iraq, they've actually begun to develop technologies that are matching our capabilities or overmatching our capabilities. And so we're starting to find ourselves in a situation where maybe we will be sending soldiers into an unfair fight, and that's not what we want to have. We want an unfair fight where our soldiers are going in, where we're overmatching our adversaries. So we need to do more. Right? We need to work together. It really comes to how do we begin to take on responsibility and begin to work together to service our country and think about how do we actually build this partnership to enhance our capabilities and maintain our national security posture. So to me, ARL West is really the next logical step in maximizing our impact to better support the Army. And as I mentioned, I envision this as a hub and spokes with major hubs strategically placed to open pathways and spokes that we use to build stronger collaborations with other organizations and regions across the country. So the research of this new hub will capitalize on relationships within things that we've been working already jointly on: augmented reality, gaming, virtual environments, immersive environments. So most of the early collaboration in AROS will really help us get to high performance computing, computational data fusion, and ways we represent data from the laboratory to the tactical edge. A collage of groups will represent the ARO West with backgrounds in things like computational sciences, sensors, and human factors. The Department of Defense has not had much of engagement with the small startups either, or venture capitalists, and we hope that we can actually enhance that here on the West Coast, especially here in Southern California. So the relationship we have with the University of Southern California and the other outstanding universities along the West Coast open up opportunities to do business with a new set of innovators. And our idea is to recruit people with different backgrounds and problem-solving approaches who are from the Southern California area. We're looking for the best and brightest researchers in the scientific and engineering oasis here on the West Coast that can help make a difference for our nation. So one thing I'd like to point out about coming to the West Coast is that over 90% of the DoD laboratories are east of the Mississippi. ARO West means that we will have a hand in changing this imbalance. We will begin to actually rebalance our distribution. And I think this is important because we need to have that geographical diversity of ideas and innovation to help us meet future needs. So there is a time and a place for everything. And today, I think this is the right time, and ARO West is the right place to bring about positive change for one of the nation's most sacred and cherished institutions, the United States Army. So let me end here by saying that I'm excited about what is the possibilities that much is not known, and that I'm excited about today that we are opening a facility dedicated to the art of the possible, where the next aha moment could happen that would give us a leading edge or game-changing discovery and innovation that will change the way we think about national security and mankind forever. Thank you very much, and it's a great Army Day.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Commanding General of the U.S. Army Research Development and Engineering Command, Major General John F. Wharton.
Well, it is a great day to be here and be with you today, and it's a distinct honor and privilege to be here as the Commanding General of the United States Army's Research Development and Engineering Command. But on behalf of the United States Army, I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you for welcoming us to your community. And I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to you today as we enter a new historic era. Now, that's an era that forges new strategic partnerships, and it's an era that establishes a West Coast presence for the United States Army. But it also creates that collaborative open campus where we bring those best minds in industry, academia, and the government to work together. But I want to let you know, it also allows this West Coast presence to now become part of the United States Army's Research Development Engineering Command and the Army Materials Command Global S&T Network. And touching in that global network, you enter a pretty powerful network that's global around the world and for state-of-the-edge technologies and advancements. So before I even start more, I'd like to recognize just a few of the VIPs. I won't go over everyone's name again. I think we know who they are, but welcome other distinguished dignitaries, friends, families here today. Let me thank the University of Southern California, wherever they went, ROTC Color Guard for presenting our nation's colors. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, there's a lot to be said for young men and women who join the Army at a time when our nation is at war. So my hats are off to them. Mrs. Marianne Haverhill, thank you so much for those wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Really adds a special touch to it. And of course, Chaplain Dillard. Thanks, Jeff, for being here and the invocation. Now, before I begin, I'd like to really talk about some of my leaders that have made this happen. And I personally and publicly want to recognize my Commanding General, Dennis L. Vi, who could not be here with us today. You know, he's the Commanding General, the four-star general, who commands the United States Army Materiel Command. And all throughout this process, he would say to me, John, you just keep going, just keep driving on, and keep doing what you're doing. And that's allowed us to make this happen in a very quick manner. Now, I spoke to him yesterday before coming out here, and he sends his regrets, but trust me, he's on other global, real-world missions in far distant lands, and he can't be with us today. He will be here. I think it's May. We're trying to bring him back. But he is represented today by a near and dear friend of mine, Lieutenant General Larry Weish, who's the Deputy Commanding General at Army Materiel Command. And at Army Materiel Command, we have a saying. We have a saying, if a soldier shoots it, eats it, wears it, drives it, communicates with it, flies it, AMC provides it. And what I like to say is, as the Research and Development Engineering Command, that we like to, that will remain true not only for our current soldiers, but as we work the science and technology, it all remain consistent for our future soldiers. Let me recognize a couple other folks here that we went over their names very quickly, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk to them. And again, it's President Nikias. Thank you so much for your leadership and allowing this to happen. You know, we know you're an engineer, researcher. You know, I learned that you were a military historian in there just a few minutes ago. But I think the thing that stood out most with your president is his passion for bringing excellence to this university. And that passion was very easy and stood out to me right from the beginning. So President Nikias, thank you for that passion, and that passion makes you a natural partner for what we do here. Dr. Tom Russell, you know, a man of who I call is the Army's chief scientist, and that's the United States Army's chief scientist. And without him, he's one of our nation's top visionaries. Without him, we wouldn't be here today. His foresight in looking at the region as we were talking back and forth and where we positioned not only has an impact here on emerging technology and innovation, but it bonds us with one of our nation's premier academic institutions, and again, that network out to all the other universities that are here on the West Coast. So let me just thank Tom for your leadership and President Nikias for everything that you've done to make this concept and translate a concept into reality. Lastly, I'd like to thank Randy. You know, Randy, it's been great knowing you over time, and his contributions as the Executive Director for the Institute of Creative Technology. He's been the man on the ground here. He's been synchronizing between the United States Army and Southern California to make this happen. So Randy, thank you for all the work you're doing there. Now, I'd also be remiss if I didn't talk to just a couple other people. I know you know the front row. A good friend of mine, Mr. Kenyatta Wesley, is here. He's from the Office of Secretary of Defense. He's the acting small business lead for the Department of Defense. And so Kenyatta, thank you for coming out and taking time out of your schedule. And I know small business is big business, and the area here will enjoy hearing you or meeting you. And the last person I'd just like to recognize is Mrs. Katrina McFarland, because she's the one and her staff at Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology provides us the resourcing we need to do the job we need to do. Now, the range of operations that we're looking at here, to give you a thought on my battle space as the Commanding General of RDECOM, it's to ensure decisive overmatch for our Army, our joint warfighters, and our nation. And it's not just now for current operations, but it's well into the future of 2040. So that's my mission statement. And I will ensure we do that for this nation. But our range spans, and we are dependent upon our work with industry and academia. The Department of Defense cannot do it by itself. We're dependent upon you and the technological advantage and the work that you do, and to help inform us to give us that decisive overmatch. You heard about the decisive overmatch. Where is it most critical? It's most critical on the ground in a fight between a soldier who's kicking in a door and someone on the other end who's pointing a weapon at him. That's where it's most critical that we bring that decisive edge to the lowest levels. And we have to do that across many different domains. We have to do that in the air, the land, the sea, space, and cyber. We have to protect the network. You know, in March, the United States Army had over 187,000 soldiers in 140 countries, focused on Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, and in the Pacific on real-world missions. I want you to think about that, 187,000 soldiers out there preserving our way of life. Now, when we establish ARL West here, it's an important event for the Department of the Defense, for the Army Research Lab, for the University of Southern California, for the community, and for all the other affiliated universities and institutions. You heard we must lead in the future, high performance computing, augmented reality, cyber. You've heard those discussions. We have to continue to protect our nation and ensure our interests can be met around the world. Now, I'm confident that this organization, this consortium, will give us that advantage, and it'll give us those advancements in emerging technology that will keep us well positioned and to give the decisive overmatch to our Army. Readiness is our Chief of Staff's #1 priority. We need to be ready to go anywhere, anytime, and accomplish our nation's wars. And I don't have to tell you that we live in a complex world. There's many nation-state, non-nation-state actors out there, various technologies, near-peer competitors where that never was before. And as we've been in Afghanistan and Iraq, our nation's competitors, or our competitors, have caught up with us. So you're going to hear a little bit later on from Dr. Flagg. You're going to hear about the third offset strategy possibly, and how we're prioritizing research in autonomy. She's looking at me saying, I hope I say that. But I'll talk about it. It's the work you're doing here when you hear Secretary Carter talk about a third offset strategy, and it's the use of autonomy, artificial intelligence that gives us decisive overmatch. So how do we optimize those capabilities from industry and public-private partnerships? So this West, ARL West, is an example of what Secretary Carter means when he talks about the third offset strategy. And it's to push and spur modernization and tech startups and entrepreneurship across the world. Now, these partnerships have had a long history with the Army, academia, and industry. And again, the results that come out of here will not only help our armed forces, but they'll help our nation. This is the new component, ARL West, and this consortium is part of our global S&T ecosystem. That ecosystem connects you to partners to be innovative in a vast network. You heard Dr. Russell talk about the consortium between industry, academia, that belongs in Army Research Lab. Let me give you a couple more facts. When you enter this consortium as ARL West in this hub, we have across my command over 5 agreements and arrangements, over 500 Department of Defense labs, over 1,000 cooperative research agreements with industry, and 1,500 different partnerships or academic funding for universities around the world. So that's the kind of network you enter and have reached back into those other things. We also run for the 6th President of the United States' Department of Defense-led manufacturing initiatives on behalf of the Department of Defense and Secretary Carter. So let me just close here by saying, as we cut the ribbon today, ARL West becomes an open campus member. It becomes the newest component in a global S&T system. The innovations, technologies, and capabilities that you'll develop here will help us not only for current real-world operations, but through the 2040 and beyond. And since 1776, our Army and nation have counted on research to advance our national objectives and also our quality of life. More than 50 years ago, the Army Research Lab, the Army formally established the Army Research Lab in Adelphi, Maryland. 50 years later, we're here. But over that time, the funding that we have provided, the Army has provided to our civilian industries and public-private partnerships, has produced over 26 Nobel laureates. Okay? I want you to think about that because that's a challenge here. 26 Nobel laureates that have worked in anywhere from superconductivity, solid-state laser, quantum fluids, olfaction identification, amongst any. Okay, so as the Chief of Staff and my boss have told me, we're giving this money to maintain a decisive overmatch. It comes with an expectation. It's an expectation that you're going to deliver those state-of-the-art technologies, that you're going to keep our soldiers the best trained and equipped in the world, and that we're going to be able to meet as a nation any future contingency when we're called upon. So thanks again for welcoming us with open arms to this community. I want to thank you for what each and every one of you do in support of our Army and nation. I want to thank and God bless our deployed men and women, their families, the Army, and this great nation of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, General Warden. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Research, Dr. Melissa Flagg.
Thank you so much. This is an incredible opportunity for me to be a part of what I believe is the beginning of what the Secretary of Defense and Undersecretary Kendall have really been pushing the department towards since I arrived. When they talk about innovation and they talk about maintaining advantage, for me, the sort of offset, when we talk about a third offset, it's really about looking around the world, recognizing where you have parity, where you're competing in a busy space, stepping back, taking a moment to bring the best and brightest minds you can find around you, and having a deliberative approach to thinking about advantage. We can't do that alone. When the Secretary goes out and says we need to reach out to non-traditional institutions and organizations, he doesn't just mean startups. He means startups, but he also means all of you who aren't necessarily right next door to us in the sort of cone of silence in Washington, that we need to get out and we need to meet the minds where they are. And that innovation is a contact sport. It's not just about having a great scientific idea. It's not just about having an incredible engineer. And it's not just about having really, really innovative startup companies. It's about bringing them together to get you through the sticky transition points. That, to me, is how we will accomplish the third offset. The third offset may be autonomy, but in 20 years, we may look back and find out that the third offset was actually something fundamentally different, but it came from driving us towards this engaged and integrated ecosystem. Universities have already gone through this. I heard a great story one day where I believe it was from a gentleman from Santa Barbara, who I think is here, who said to a colleague of mine, you know, it used to be that the universities were the ivory towers. Now we believe the laboratories are. That you stand behind razor wire and you stand behind security clearances and you're not collaborative. Well, the Army Research Lab is proving that wrong. They're opening their doors, they're reaching out, and they're meeting the minds where they are. They're coming to you to access your ideas and to ask you to be a part of a mission that's bigger than yourself. The most phenomenal opportunity that the Department of Defense brings is the combination of some of the most wicked, hard problems on Earth. I want a material that can go 4,500 miles an hour and be the temperature of molten steel and still be completely okay when it gets where it's going and land in exactly the place I want it. These are amazingly hard problems. I want a soldier to be able to walk through an explosion and come out the other side safe. I can't imagine not wanting to work on problems this hard. But you also can do it as a part of a team and as a part of a mission that is so inspiring and so much bigger than each one of us individually. This idea that we can selflessly serve our nation to make that vision of 2040 a place we all want to live, a place where we've maintained not only our security but our values, where we've created that future together. And that's why I agree with Tom. It's not about collaborations. It's not about engagement. I don't know what that word means. I know what a partnership is. I know what a good old-fashioned debate of ideas is. And that's what I believe that the Army Research Lab has really leaned forward and shown is possible. And so I would just like to finish by saying thank you, gentlemen, for having the courage to lean forward. And this is not just a great Army Day. This is a great day for the United States, and it's a great day for the whole Department of Defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flagg. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, the Assistant Director for Defense Programs, Dr. Chris Fall.
I don't know whose idea it was for me to follow Melissa. Her infectious enthusiasm is always great to hear. I'm going to skip, again, the recital of the official party. I would like to stop and for a second and recognize, though, those of you in the audience, the scientists and engineers who have decided to make national security something you're interested in working on. This is incredibly important. So thank you for inviting OSTP to participate in this great National Day, great Army Day. The President's Science Advisor, Dr. John Holdren, and the U.S. Chief Technology Officer, Megan Smith, send their congratulations and their regards. So I do want to give you just a little bit of wonky DC policy context for why we're so excited about what's going on here today. OSTP does have a significant role in national security, and we take that role very seriously. We work closely with the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, and the other agencies who have a big role in S&T for national security. But when it comes to DoD in particular, we really try and step back. We feel that the services are best positioned to understand their gaps, decide their strategies, decide their investments, and there are some exceptions. You know, when we need to try and get the services to work, say, with another agency, hypersonics comes to mind. When the President would like us to have a little bit more of an expansive view of national security, the National Network of Manufacturing Institutes would be an example of that. We do try and put our thumb on the scale when we think there's a technology that's important, cybersecurity, engineering, biology. I think you'll hear more from us about the opportunities and threats posed by artificial intelligence in the future. But really our bread and butter, what we do is try and work the policy issues that enable all of this. So people, we care a lot about the quality, the flow, and the diversity of our national security technical workforce. Facilities, we really would like to promote modern facilities where people want to work, and also facilities that we can share with academia and industry. Great, you know, I mean, this is phenomenal. We tie ourselves in a lot of knots in the Department of Defense and across the government in terms of our business rules. We want to try and comb through the knots there. And this President cares a lot about innovation, and so we really look to understand and adapt, because it's not always straightforward to transfer the best of innovation, tactics, and strategy, bring that into the government, including to national defense, science, and technology. But we're excited. It's not every day that we open up a new national security, science, and technology facility, certainly not one in Los Angeles with such a promise of creativity. So it's a very big deal. When I talk to my industry friends, they ask, why can't we just do this? This seems pretty straightforward. It's obvious, do more of it. And I have to remind them that the way we do things in our country, industry can do whatever they want unless the law says no. Federal government can't do anything unless the law says yes, you can do it. And so this issue of authorities naturally creates a very conservative, risk-averse culture. We do in the White House think that Congress has been more generous with authorities than sometimes the agencies are willing to admit. So we spend a lot of time doing outreach to agencies and organizations and saying, hey, try this, why don't you try this? We think it's okay, your lawyers think it's okay, or our lawyers think it's okay. And so we're thrilled to be a part of this celebration where we have remarkable leaders like Tom Russell, who've worked with his leadership to put in place something different. right? Trying something different. It's not just that this is new, it's that it's cutting edge and touching all the bases. It complements ARL's vision for an open campus, also cutting edge. It complements other initiatives that ARL is out in front on, like entrepreneurial leave for scientists and engineers. How do we keep people excited? Maybe we give them the opportunity to go out and take some risk. So generals, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Russell and the ARL team are really making a difference. It's a difference that people are noticing, and it's certainly something that we're noticing. I will say that we do think Congress has given the DoD lab directors, shall we say, authority to be more creative in shaping their government workforce than maybe is the case. That's a conversation for another day. We'll keep fighting that fight together. So this is LA. You could start to hear the get off the stage music here. I do want to reinforce that we really applaud what ARL and USC are doing here. It's taking the right kind of risk with this experiment, right? I'd like to encourage you and all of our national security government colleagues to exercise these authorities to the fullest. We'll provide the top cover that we can in support of the national security, science, and technology mission, and where those need to be expanded, we already have a great relationship to work together. And I would just add one other thing, and that's to please dedicate some of your time and effort to making sense of what you're learning here and communicating it to other organizations. This is really important, and this is what we try and do. We point now we can send people to you. So great. So thanks again for having us here, and thanks again for the scientists, engineers, and support staff who choose to make national security their focus. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Fall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the University of Southern California, CL Max Nikias.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a great day for the United States Army, but it's a great day to be a Trojan, too. My day began with a big announcement announcing a new athletic director, Lynn Swan. And here I am for the ribbon cutting in the afternoon. It's a great day to be a Trojan. General Wish and General Wharton, Dr. Russell, it's really been a pleasure working with you. You should all know that in the meeting we had in my office with General Wharton and Dr. Russell, and I think Randy Hill, you were, and Michael, our provost was there. Our ROTC students, it just happened, they were doing their exercises outside my window. So General Wharton thought that I was staging a theater for him to impress him. He didn't believe me, it was just a coincidence. But seriously, this university established the ROTC program in 1917. Next year, we're going to celebrate the 100 years of ROTC in the University of Southern California. And this university never kicked ROTC off our campus when everybody else did. We never did. And today, we have student veterans and ROTC students, more than 1,000 of them pursuing degrees at USC. But this afternoon, we celebrate a new beginning, a landmark moment in our push to meet the challenges of the future now, not tomorrow. We are standing in the heart of Southern California's booming Silicon Beach. I refer to it the Silicon Beautiful Ocean View. This is our nation's newest tech breeding ground, teeming with breakthrough advances that 20 years ago literally were science fiction fantasy. And now USC is ready to build on its expertise as the renowned Army Research Lab officially opens its newest university outpost, the first, I believe, west of the Mississippi. It was about time. Here, ARL West is joining forces with the USC's pioneering Institute for Creative Technologies, which has already put the reality into virtual reality. ICT science and technology teams are working on ways to improve the play of virtual reality games, like World of Warcraft, by using body movements rather than the joystick. But the same ingenious software using immersive technology can also drop soldiers into virtual battlefields or help stroke patients learn to regain movement. ICT, funded by the United States Army, was born of a desire to raise the tech bar. And actually, back in 1999, that was a very bold move by the Army to reach out and tap into Hollywood expertise in order to meet the simulation and training needs that the Army had at the time. The ARL West's open campus means USC's outstanding scientists and engineers will work side by side with the best and the brightest from the Army and from the regional tech industry, including the startup industry. Together, these men and women are blending the pulse-pounding sweep of video gaming with world-class academic research, plus a little movie magic thrown into it. Among ICT's notable lifts, BraveMind, a virtual reality therapy for treating active duty soldiers and veterans suffering from depression or post-traumatic stress disorder. The Oculus Rift, a low-cost virtual reality headset that has its roots in ICT's mixed reality laboratory. The Disaster Sim, a virtual reality training tool to help plan and conduct natural disaster response and relief. So already Silicon Beach is the world's second largest such hub in the nation, just behind Silicon Valley. And with this new collaboration right here in Playa Vista, LA is firmly established as a tech mecca. Whether through data analysis, robotics, wearable electronics, or virtual reality headsets, we expect this joint venture to carve new roads that no map maker could anticipate. And actually, that's really, for many of you in the audience, you know, the beauty of research. It's not what you plan for. It is in the unpredictability of the results. 10 years ago, who could have anticipated the movie Avatar and ICT's Oscar-winning computer graphics, or ICT's holograms that dramatically bring survivor testimony to life at the USC Shoah Foundation Institute. The wonder of such technology leaves no doubt. The future is indeed ours to see. God bless the United States of America, and fight on. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, on the count of three, we'll cut the ribbon. 1, 2, 3.